then we got Embrace the Apocalypse sending in 35 South African Rand, says, let's discuss Lord of the Rings. What the fuck? Why? Poor Disney lost an entire Warner Brothers this week. Shame, 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 shame. Yeah, so this is a lot of news coming out of Warner Brothers this week. This was kind of a
adventures.
Yeah, so Peter Jackson and Warner Brothers came out and sent a big FU to Amazon. I don't know if you read the actual release, but oh my god, there was so much of the keepers of the lore, Professor Tolkien, they referred to him as, all the love and respect that you could think of, everything that is the absolute opposite of what Amazon said. And I even said it last night on Midnight's Edge After Dark. I'm like, this new movie and this Gollum movie that they're working on could be a piece of shit. I don't care. All I have to do is think about Rings of Power, and I'm fine with that. Because they deserve this. They deserve this so badly. Now, the other side of this controversy, though, is there was a fan film called Search for Gollum or something like that that got pulled down by Warner Brothers. I don't know if you guys had heard about that, but
it was pulled down very recently as well, as far as memory serves, because now is when it suddenly became a threat to their upcoming project.
Yeah. So that was odd move on Warner Brothers' behalf, but I am happy to see Circus come back, and it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. What do you guys think about it?
Well, Circus is directing, right?
And playing Gollum again, I believe, yes.
Do you know what other movie he recently directed?
That Jungle Book movie nobody saw.
And the Venom movie that I saw.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He did do that Venom movie. But did he write it? I don't think he did.
No, anyway, I'm going to let Paul take this one because you...
I'm waiting for My Dinner with Sauron.
I do.
I'm waiting for the movie My Dinner with Sauron.
Well, give it time. I mean, I'm sure that Amazon is going to make that happen.
Could you imagine someone at the table on one end, and then at the other end is this giant tower with an eye in it, and they're having a conversation about
the mouth of Sauron sitting there?
Yeah, he's just, how much money I bet on the Maple Leafs to win. God damn it.
Well, I still think it's going to be an after effect of the sex scene between Sauron and what's her face Galadriel that was off camera in season 1 of the Rings of Power, which I guarantee you.
I think Rings of Power on their own has potentially ruined any extension of the franchise, even with the best of intentions. It's a giant pall. It's a huge blanket over the entire Lord of the Rings franchise. I mean, obviously Peter Jackson is the gold standard. He wants to dip his toe back into it. Why does he want to do that? Does he want to try to make up for the mess that was The Hobbit? I'm sure he realizes what a mess The Hobbit was.
Oh, he must. I mean,
well, that was an inherited mess that he added to, unfortunately. Yeah.
That was an experiment gone wrong. No one was happy with how that thing came out.
It wasn't his fault that the studios told him they wanted 3 movies.
Well, he actually added the 3rd film, I found out.
Really?
Yeah, but Lord knows why. He was also saddled with whatever Guillermo had come up with, because it was too late in the game for them to change anything at that point.
Right.
So I think that might have been why he added a 3rd film, is he wanted to put more of his stamp on the story, perhaps.
Maybe.
That being said, it doesn't matter. At this point, like I said, it could be the shittiest movie I've ever seen. I found this to be the most hilarious fuck you to Amazon ever. Let me bring up the actual readings.
Yeah, bring it up. I never read the piece.
We're in for a treat.
But I mean, anything to do with Peter Jackson, Gollum, and the Lord of the Rings.
All I know is everybody will look very smooth.
Yeah, before we bring this up, some context is in order here.
Yeah.
Because remember, before the Embracer Group came in, the owners of the Lord of the Rings rights, the ones who basically sold the rights to Amazon in the first place, they've always had problems. They don't really quite understand their own rights, so they sold.
I think they finally figured it out.
Amazon, and then they decided that no, we don't think that Warner has any rights anymore, to which Warner basically came back and said, nope, we do. And then they announced this whole animated War of the Rohirrim movie as a rights extender. So they still have everything to do with Peter Jackson. So that's the backstory. There's some rights issues here.
Word on the street was that Amazon ended up paying New Line and Warner Brothers for some characters as well for season 2 of their show. But yesterday, Warner Brothers made it official by whipping their dick out and slamming it on the table in front of Amazon and saying, "It's an honor and a privilege to travel back to Middle Earth with our good friend and collaborator, Andy Serkis, who has unfinished business with that stinker Gollum." Jackson and Boyens and Walsh said in a statement. So those three are the ones who were the writers, and of course Jackson was the director for the original Lord of the Rings. As lifelong fans of Professor Tolkien's vast mythology, see, that's one thing they said. We are proud to be working with Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi and the entire team at Warner Brothers on another epic adventure. And yeah. And they also, before I jumped ahead here, sorry, Zaslav had made sure to let it be known that they will be involved in every step of the way. That was another thing I think that was kind of a huge slap at Amazon. Because remember what happened with the Amazon deal, guys. Jackson was involved at first. You guys remember that?
Yeah, and they let him go.
They just fucking ghosted his ass. He even said that. He never heard back from him. So I believe that was a huge shot at Amazon saying, yeah, he's going to be here the whole time. Anyway, so I read this part already. And then Serkis comes in with Las Plazas. The time has come once more to venture into the unknown with my dear friends, the extraordinary and incomparable Guardians of Middle Earth. Peter, Fran, and Philippa, added Serkis, with Mike and Pam and the Warner Brothers team on the quest as well, alongside Weta and our family in New Zealand. It's just all too delicious. So basically they're saying that pretty much anybody and everybody they can get back from the original team is coming back, and they are the true guardians of Middle Earth. So yeah. And for over 2 decades now, moviegoers have embraced the Lord of the Rings film trilogy because of the undeniable devotion Peter, Fran, and Philippa have shown towards protecting the legacy of Tolkien's works and ensure the audiences could experience the incredible world he created in a way that honors his literary vision. Abdi and DeLuca added, "We are honored that they have agreed to be our partners on this 2 new films, with Andy coming aboard to direct Lord of the Rings Hunt for Gollum. We continue an important commitment to excellence that is the true hallmark of how we all want to venture ahead further, contributing to the Lord of the Rings cinematic history." So yeah, I felt like that was a couple of shots at Amazon. And look, what they're doing is they're telling a story that isn't in the books. They're making up their own thing that's kind of based on things in between events, right? And so they're going to do what Amazon's trying to do, and I think they're going to do it better because they actually have this is going to be official Lord of the Rings stuff in most fans' eyes, is what I'm seeing here. Do you guys see what I'm seeing here, or am I alone?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to do it worse than what Amazon has. Of course, it can be done if they try, but it's going to be difficult. Whereas if they try to do it better, it's not going to take much effort, also from this team.
Paul, do you agree with me, or you disagree, or see something else here?
Yeah, no, I just done listening. Yeah, I completely, it's. But as I said earlier, the general audience is going to be confused.
This is the issue.
This is the issue.
I don't know.
Peter Jackson's legacy is very important for us, but I'm not so certain it's going to be as important for an audience that is like, when was the last Jackson movie? When did that play?
Well, Get Back, and he's done a lot of documentary type stuff.
Yeah. So the thing is, he is less connected to the general audience than Lucas is to Star Wars.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's so I'm just, the best thing that could happen for this, let me be completely frank, if Rings of Power is fantastic, season 2, then that is good for this. That's going to be my weird weird angle. But Rings of Power is going to be horrible.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, because in the case of audience confusion, and the ones who will not be confused at all are those that follow this closely. And I think that less people will be confused about this than many other things, because there are so many fans of Tolkien that will have some level of understanding of, oh, this is a completely separate thing, which is tied to the Jackson stuff, but it's not at all tied to the Amazon stuff. The problem that confuses here is actually the Amazon stuff that billed itself tacitly, without doing so explicitly, but it billed itself tacitly as the canon prequel to the Peter Jackson movies, which obviously it isn't. It's a completely separate Lord of the Rings. So kind of just like Star Trek here, you now have two parallel entities, which is a horrible, horrible situation. And the one that stands the most to lose from it is the more legitimate and the more, well, none of them are legitimate because they're both fan fiction, right? But I would say that this new one here is more legitimate because it's going to be connected to the Peter Jackson movies. So it's legitimate to that. Whereas the Amazon series is just a bastard stepchild all along across the board. Problem is, I think not enough people will be aware of that, and this series may suffer for it. It's going to be like, no, I really hated the Rings of Powers. Why would I watch this thing? It's all the same universe.
I think a lot of people, I don't know. I think
people, but yeah,
I think enough people know that there's a difference. Because a lot of people tuned in for the first bit of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, and then they're like, well, fuck this noise. Because they could tell it wasn't the same thing. And to me, I think I think they're doing this for a reason, because having Andy Serkis come out, direct the film, play Gollum, it's going to show, the audience that this is connected to the other films, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, because this film will actually take place technically in between or just before Lord of the Rings, right? So this will be all the stuff that happens just before we see him, being tortured and screaming, Hobbit Shire, and all that stuff like that.
The other concern I have is you can't go back there syndrome.
I don't know. Now my favorite parts of The Hobbit were this. Like, that was what I was looking forward to, is when they brought Gollum back in, because that's my favorite part of the book, is when Bilbo falls down the pit and they have the riddles in the dark. And I thought they did that brilliantly, and I thought Serkis came in and just fit like a glove, like he did.
And they won't be hoeing studio requests to make a 3D version, which is one of the things that killed The Hobbit.
Oh yeah, for sure. Not the 3D, but the high frame rate.
Well, no, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the moments where it was clear that what we're seeing is a theme park ride.
Yes.
There are moments in the movie where you'd go, okay, story, interaction. Oh, great. Love it. This is good. And suddenly we're in a theme park and we're going down mine shafts and the camera's going everywhere.
That's the parts I didn't care for either. Like the barrel thing and all that stuff too was a little too overboard.
All of that.
Yeah. And I agree. I'm sure there's a edit out there that some probably multiple edits out there that fans have done where they've cut it down to just what's in the Hobbit book and so on. But,
yeah.
But I don't, you know what?
The Hobbit is not really a good ripping yarn. There's stories in it. Lord of the Rings is the ripping yarn. The Hobbit is kind of a meandering.
Well, the Lord of the Rings is epic.
Pasta.
The Hobbit is more smaller and concentrated. That's the way I always looked at it.
It's setting the table. The Hobbit is setting the ideas down, the world down with a little bit of adventure.
To put it into context, Peter Jackson's 9-hour The Hobbit is, in my opinion, vastly inferior to Rankin and Bass's 50-minute animated
110%.
Yeah, which is an hour long, less than an hour even, and it's better. And it tells the entire story. You don't really miss anything.
Not really. And it has better music.
Yeah, that too. Much better.
This clip was taken from Midnight's Edge in the Morning, which streams live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time on the Midnight's Edge main channel. There you can send in your live questions and comments before clips and full stream replays are uploaded to Midnight's Edge live archives. We are also on Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey and Facebook, so smash that like, help share, subscribe and join us.